Good morning and Happy New Year to everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us this morning. It's January 9th, 2024, 9 a.m. and I will call this meeting to order. First order of business is the adoption of the minutes.
Be it resolved that the minutes of the meetings held on December 5th, 2023 and December 6th, 2023 be adopted.
Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Hens will move. Councillor Noble will second. All in favor? And that is carried. Before I go on with disclosures of pecuniary interest, I just want to take a moment, and I should have done this earlier, to welcome Blaine Parkin, our new Chief Administrative Officer, to his first session with us around the Horseshoe. Welcome, Blaine. We look forward to a long and productive career for you here. Now, I will remind members of any disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Seeing none, we have no presentations this morning, so we will now move into the Committee of the Whole.
Be it resolved that we do now move into Committee of the Whole.
Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Widner will move. Councillor Sloan will second. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Moving on with Section 6, Reports of Council, Outside Boards and Staff. 6.1 is the Warden's Activity Report. Suffice it to say that this is the report for December. It is attached. I would be happy to answer any questions should anyone have. It was a very enjoyable month, taken up with a lot of Christmas parades and very fun time. Seeing no questions.
Be it resolved that the report titled Warden's Activity Report December 2023 dated January 9th, 2024 from Warden Ketchabah be received and filed.
Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Deputy Warden Jones and Councillor Cookett. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Section 6.2, the 2024 Council Committee appointments. Back at our regular meeting in December, I had petitioned council if there were any changes that anyone requested to their assignments on committees. Having received none, I assume everyone's happy with where they are serving, and we can proceed on that basis for another year. Any comments, questions? Everybody's good. Fantastic. Jenna?
Be it resolved that County Council approve the Council Committee and Local Board appointments for 2024 as recommended by Warden Ketchabah, and that Schedule F of Bylaw 23-01 be repealed and replaced with Appendix 1 as attached to the January 9th, 2024 report titled 2024 Council Committee Appointments.
Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Sloan? Councillor Giguère? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. 6.3, the Acting Manager of Planning regarding PS 24-1, the County Official Plan Review, final draft of official plan. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Mr. Warden, members of council. So we are coming closer to the conclusion of what has been a fairly long journey for the county in, in updating the official plan, but I'm very happy to report we continue to move along, and I have high expectations that over the next few months we'll be able to wrap this project up. There are a number of recommendations that are before council this evening, or pardon me, this morning, and they're highlighted at the beginning of the report. So I'm just going to review them because I'm going to touch on these as I walk through the presentation this morning. We're looking for council to receive and file two documents that are attached to my staff report. The first being an addendum that was undertaken by Henson Consulting to the land needs assessment and population projections for the county. The second being the actual final draft version of the official plan, which is in your council packages. The next recommendation after that is that council endorses the final draft Elgin County official plan. And also the final recommendation beyond that is that we move forward with the public consultation, public meeting and public open house process that will take us through the winter time. And those are part of our statutory obligations under the Planning Act to conclude this project. So we're looking for, essentially at the very end of the day, we're looking for an endorsement of the final draft version of the official plan that's before you today and permission to take that through public open house and public meeting that are required under the Planning Act. With respect to a little bit of history on this file, because again, this has been a bit of a long journey for the county. The official plan review project started in the winter of 2021 under the former manager of planning administration. And that project was paused beginning in in fall of 2021 with the departure of the manager of planning, and was essentially reinitiated when we were engaged to assist the county with interim planning services. And part of that mandate was to conclude the official plan project. So we completed our background review by the summer of 2022 and began drafting the final version, or the draft of the official plan, the final version of which you see before you today. That work was concluded by March of 2023. At that point, we sought endorsement to go to the public with the draft of the document to start the technical circulation. We were anticipating at that point that we would be before council in the summer of 2023, so this past summer, on this particular subject of looking for an approval and sending our document over to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs for a final approval. That was paused for a number of reasons. The first being the departure of some senior staff members from the county who were administering this project on behalf of council. The second being the announcement of the new VW plant in St. Thomas. We wanted to make sure we were pausing this process to ensure that we assess the impacts, particularly from a population and an economic standpoint, of the arrival of this plant on the county. And that's the reason that we undertook, Henson undertook an addendum to their land needs assessment and population projections. And the third reason being is we had at the time, the province had made an announcement in the summertime that they were looking to update and would be issuing a revised provincial policy statement that would have substantial implications on the county official plan. So we were awaiting the outcome of that process from the province as well, until the province announced later that summer that they were pausing the implementation of a new provincial policy statement. And we still do not have a word on when the new provincial policy statement will be released. So that brings us to the end of summer, when we re-kicked off the process again, understanding that we weren't getting a new provincial policy statement. We had new leadership, administrative leadership at the county, and we had Henson engaged to undertake the review of the population projections and land needs assessment that they had previously completed. So we, through the fall, we had undertaken updates to the official plan that were the result of the technical circulation that we undertook in the spring. So technical circulation is once council had given us permission to release the original draft of the official plan, we also circulated that to a number of ministries and outside agencies such as conservation authorities, school boards, the railway authorities, airport authorities, all the rest of it. There are a large kit and caboodle of agencies that get circulated this document. And they respond back with a number of comments and requested revisions to the document. We also put it on circulation to the public. So we also had members of the public that were making submissions to the document. So what we did over the course of the fall is we took all of that information that we'd received from the technical circulation, and we had made and we're proposing a number of changes to the official plan as a result of that technical circulation, which is a very standard process when we're undertaking the development of a new official plan. So when you're going through that staff report, when you get to the big long chart that I've outlined in that document, those are the changes that we've incorporated into the document since the last version that council's seen. And again, from having undertaken these types of reviews in the past, the volume of comments and the scope of the comments received, I would suggest, is very typical for what we would receive to a county official plan. We still have not received comments from the province of Ontario on the official plan. They were circulated to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, who subsequently then circulate that to a number of ministries like the Ministry of Natural Resources, MTO, etc. We had inquired a number of times of when we could expect comments to be received by the province, and we received formal correspondence from them over the summertime that we would not be receiving comments from the province. which from my perspective is somewhat disappointing. But I note that just to say that when council does eventually adopt this plan and we do send it to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing for approval, there's likely a number of modifications that we can still expect to receive from the province. It's very normal that the province would modify these plans. But because they did not provide us comments in advance, we were not able to incorporate those comments into the document before council today. So we'll likely expect some modifications to be received to the plan when it eventually does go to the ministry for approval. With respect to the meat of the recommendations that are before council today, within the staff report, I've noted that they kind of fall into three different tranches of subject matter. So I'm going to cover those one by one as they're outlined in the report. So the first thing I'd like to cover with council today is the update to the Hempson population projections and land needs assessment. So council will recall, when we undertake an official plan, we're going to analyze and undertake population projections. So we're going to analyze how much land the county needs to grow over a 20 to 25 year period. And that was undertaken back in 2021 by the county. They had hired Hempson to do that report. Then we have this announcement of this major industrial investment that's going to be happening in the city of St. Thomas that may have impacts on the amount of people that are coming into the community and how much land we need to grow. So before we went ahead and approved that official plan, we wanted to assess what those impacts might be and to ensure that once again we have enough land to accommodate our projected population as well as the projected industry that we anticipate coming into the county. The results of that addendum, and again, the addendum itself is attached to my staff report, but the results of the addendum indicated that at this time, it's the opinion of Hempson Consulting that we do not require any additional lands to be added to the urban boundaries of the county settlement areas as a result of the plan. The new plant's arrival. And the reasons for this are essentially threefold. The first, it's noted that one of the reasons we don't need to add more land is that there, according to Hempson and their calculations, there is actually, we knew this already, there's a very substantial oversupply of residential and employment lands across the county. That's not an odd thing. We see this in many jurisdictions that are similar to Elgin County's makeup. Where municipalities over the years have had legacy urban boundary expansions and just kind of, again, we have a sufficient amount of land. So there's no justification essentially under provincial policy to expand given the size of the oversupply. Hempson also notes that, that there's a kind of a change in the way that the supply chain functions as well too, a change that's increased over the past number of decades, where we see the economic spin-offs associated with these large industrial investments, such as the one that's happening in St. Thomas, are much more dispersed than they were a number of years ago. So notwithstanding that we will see economic benefits to the location of the plant being adjacent to us in the city of St. Thomas, we will not see quite a large concentration we're not expected to see a very large concentration of plants that are seeking additional lands within the county, as we expect that those investments will be dispersed across southern Ontario. And those assessments were made based on assessments they had done of the impacts of the arrival of CAMI, the arrival of Toyota in the Woodstock-Ingersoll region, and the arrival of the Honda plant north of Toronto. The third reason that Hempson is not recommending the expansion of urban boundaries at this time or the consideration of additional lands is that the plant is under construction, and it's very likely that the county will be undertaking revisions to their population projections and land needs assessments before the plant is completed to fulfill our statutory requirements. So essentially what Hempson is saying to us is you have a lot of land right now, and while the plant finishes construction and we understand the impacts over the next couple of years as they start to form and become more concrete, we're going to be going through another revision to these population projections and land needs assessment. And that's likely a more appropriate time that we would want to consider that when we have a better idea of what the overall impacts will be looking like. So with respect to that, that's the summary of the addendum that was prepared by Hempson Consulting, and that we are seeking council's endorsement of, or at least acceptance and filing of. With respect to the second item of discussion this morning, it's with respect to the chart that's included in the staff report that I prepared that outlines the changes to the final draft official plan. So once again, that chart outlines changes that are a result of the technical circulation that we undertook back in the spring, where we sent that plan over to conservation authorities, railway authorities, the school boards. We released it to the public. We released it to the local municipalities who all provided comment back as well too. So this is an amalgam of all of those recommended changes into that chart. Another element of those changes also has to do with, during the processing and creation of the official plan, we've also been processing planning applications. We've also been attending Ontario Land Tribunal hearings on behalf of council. So there's a handful of changes that are in that chart that are also just the recommendations that after staff have taken another look at the existing wording as it relates to the processing of current applications, we're suggesting some additional revisions or refinements of the wording. Mr. Warden, I'd leave it at your discretion. I'm not sure if you'd like me to walk through each of the individual changes in the document. I'm not sure if council, I'm happy, I'm at your pleasure, sir. I'm just not sure if it's a benefit for me to walk through the individual changes to council.
Well, let's poll council and find out. How deep into a discussion do you wish to get? Do you want to go point by point, or is there any questions over the summary of changes that has caught your attention you'd like to ask further questions on? Councillor Cookett.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. In general, I kind of support the official plan report. A couple of comments. I'd like to deal with it in a general way rather than go through it point by point, because we do have to access the public as well. But I would like to make a few comments. First of all, I'm pleased to see that the report does indicate that the urban lands deficit, there is an urban lands deficit in Elmer of about 20.8 hectares. And of course, like any plan, this is an educated guess in terms of what's going to happen within the next 25 years or so. I suspect that's probably low in terms of the deficit for Elmer. The other question I have is that you're indicating that you would increase the affordable housing target from 25% to 55%. Does that mean that all new building from this point on would look at a target of 55% in terms of affordable housing? Because that's a huge target to go. I certainly think there's a need for it, but it is a huge jump all of a sudden. So that's just my comments.
Thank you, Councillor Cookett. Do you have any comments on that, Paul? I think particularly regarding the target for attainable housing. I'm not aware of any particular mechanism that's available to force that. It would all have to be incentive based, I would think.
It's a very excellent question, and I'm very happy that this was raised by council, because this is a very large jump in the initial target that was included in the plan from 25 to 55. The reason for the rationale behind the original 25% target, and then I'll jump to how we got to a 55% target and how we intend to or would recommend the implementation of that target, is a 25% target tends to be the default target that the province of Ontario requires municipalities to incorporate into their official plans. I can't, quite frankly, speak to the reason why the Ministry of Municipal Affairs seems to fall back on a 25% target, but that is their default target. So that's why that was originally included in the plan. When we were examining the reason for the suggested revision there is when we were examining the demographic makeup of the county, we also had the benefit of very newly released census information as well too. So we wanted to take another look at that. We were calculating the percentage of Elgin's population that are considered to be low and moderate income households, because that under provincial definitions, low and moderate income households are where affordable housing is targeted to. And affordable housing does not necessarily mean government sponsored or government built housing. Affordable housing can also just be private sector housing that is affordable to low and moderate income households. When we examined the county's demographics, we identified that 55% of the county's population falls within low and moderate income households. So that being the case, that's why we chose 55% as the target. And I would want to stress that this is a target. It's not something that is mandated in the official plan that all new development must include 55% affordable housing. What we do is we establish that target with the intention that we're going to report on this target yearly to council to indicate how close we're going to meeting that target. And we're asking developers and applicants who are coming in with residential development applications to demonstrate to the county and to county council how they're working towards that target. So that it does not require those individual developers to set aside 55% of their housing as affordable housing, but to demonstrate to county council how they're working towards achieving that target. I don't anticipate after the first year, after the first 2 years of the administration of this plan, that we're going to be reporting to council that we're meeting a 55% affordability target. What I would guess is going to happen is we're going to be identifying for council incremental increases. So over the span of that 20 to 25 year plan, we'd like to see incremental increases in the amount of affordable housing as we go through the 20 to 25 year implementation of that plan. So it's not again, I want to stress, this is not something that each development application is going to be required to meet that target. They're going to be required to demonstrate how they're working towards that target, because some of that affordability target and achieving that 55% is also going to have to come from subsidized housing, from government housing, from higher levels of government. They're all going to play a piece in us achieving that 55% target. So in conclusion, I'd suggest to council, I suggest, the intention of that policy is that the 55% is an aspirational target, and we're going to be asking applicants to demonstrate to county council how they're working towards helping us achieve that target. And again, that target is based in 55% of our current demographics indicate that Elgin County households fall within low to moderate income households. If that demographic changes as we go through the implementation of the plan, we'll also be looking at, council should be looking at adjusting that target to reflect the demographic nature and makeup of the county. I'm hoping that provides some clarification, but I do really want to thank council for raising that, because it is certainly a discussion point that I wanted to make sure council was aware of and comfortable of.
Thank you for that explanation, Paul. Deputy Warden Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I think the 55% is a lofty goal. I do agree we need to push harder, the province, they're at the provincial level, to raise their target too, because it's very difficult conversation with developers when they want to do the bare minimum. And that's been a frustration for Southwold for the last few years. And I think attitudes are changing a little, but I think we do need to keep pushing developers to look at affordable housing more and more all the time. And until the province steps up and puts a hard target that's higher than what they have right now, it's going to be very difficult to do for most of the developers. Some are really pulling the lion's share of the weight here doing this affordable housing. Some aren't doing it at all. So
Thank you for those comments. Councillor Widner.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. Paul, on page 31 and paragraph C, we're alluding to the fact 225 housing units. Is that for the whole, I presume that's for the whole county? Does that include St. Thomas too? Doesn't seem like a lot. I thought the number would be a little higher.
This is on page 30.
One.
Forgive me. At the Henson report, or?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, pardon me. Yes. Those would be for the, yes, sorry, to clarify through you, Mr. Warden, those would be excluding the city of St. Thomas. That's only for Elgin County.
Only for Elgin County and all the municipalities. So I thought it would be higher. I'm quite surprised it's this number, but it's nice to know what the projection is. Thank you.
Councillor Hens.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. And I'd like to comment on item 7.15, which establishes a forest cover target of 30% of the county and identifies how the county will work towards this target. That's a lofty goal if the province and the federal government approves what's happened on the development site for the VW battery plant. I would like your comments, Paul, how do we even come close to achieving that? And is there a possibility with other land clearing, we require if an acre is destroyed, another acre planted somewhere else, can we approach the province or the federal government or both to do a similar type of process?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Warden. So again, I want to thank, because I think this is a great question with the introduction of the 30% target. Where did this come from? How are we expected to achieve it? And again, this is one of the points that I certainly wanted to highlight for council if I was walking through point by point. With respect to the 30% target, to give you a sense of the origins of it, this was brought to our attention during the technical circulation. So this was an outside agency that had, and it's the land, you'll forgive me, I'm going to mess up the name of the actual organization, but it's an organization involved with land trusts in Elgin, who were recommending that we look at a 30% coverage, forest coverage target. I had this discussion with the local conservation authorities, as well as the tree conservation officer, the county's tree conservation officer, to kind of get a handle on what would be an appropriate target if we were to introduce one. I think all the parties, when I was discussing this with them, the reason we the reason we landed on a 30% target was it's a standard target for what's considered to be the bare minimum for biodiversity within a watershed. So that it's backed up, and it comes from a place of academia and study. It's a standard that's been adopted by the federal government, and so that's the rationale behind looking for a 30% target. How we intend to get there, I would suggest, is very much like the affordable housing target, because the same mechanisms are incorporated into this target. It is an aspirational target. It's not something that every development proposal that comes in through the county is going to be expected to incorporate 30% of their land for forest cover. But we are asking development proponents to demonstrate to council how they will work towards achieving that target. And we're hoping that development proponents, when they explain to us how they're going to be working towards that, will be looking at increasing forest coverage, particularly on the peripheries of their development, maybe where we do have existing woodlots that are on their site. They're able to create larger buffers around those woodlots with additional plantings. But again, we're not mandating that 30% be incorporated into all development approvals. We're simply asking that that development proponents explain how they're going to help us to work towards that target, with the intention that staff would be reporting annually to council on how we're incrementally working towards achieving that target over the 20 to 25 year period of the plan. With respect to the other question that you asked about when we see forest cover being removed because of a development process that's taken place, we've introduced new policies into the plan that would permit that if we do see destruction as a result of a development approval, a requirement that planting of equal or greater ecological value be made somewhere within the same watershed. So functionally, how we would envision that working on the ground is we're going to have a development proponent that comes in, says, I need to remove an acre of land to construct my subdivision. If we're all in agreement that yes, it's appropriate to remove the acre of land, the expectation is that development proponent, through the development agreement that will be signed with them, will make a contribution to likely a local conservation authority, maybe a land trust, or some other body that protects their mandate is to protect naturalized areas. To add, perhaps in a different location, but in the same watershed, a planting, another acre of land of planting. So again, from the how are we working towards achieving that target? I appreciate that that's an ambitious target. I am always of the opinion we should aim high in our hopes, but we do consider that to be an ambitious target that is an aspirational target at the same time to be implemented over the course of the 20 to 25 year implementation. Does not require individual developments to incorporate 30% tree coverage on their property. But if we do have a situation where we're scaling back the tree coverage on the property, that developer is expected to make a contribution somewhere else in the same watershed to replace that tree coverage. I'm hoping that answered your question, Councillor. Again, through you, Mr. Warden, I'm happy to add any clarifications.
You did answer my question, and you talked about residential development. Would that apply to industrial development as well? The need to compensate us?
Through you, Mr. Warden, it would apply quite frankly, it would apply to all forms of development. I think the general expectation is it would just because of the sheer amount of residential land we have in the county, more often than not, we'll likely be dealing with residential development proposals, but it would apply to all development proposals.
Thank you.
Okay, anything additional? Yes, Deputy Warden Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. And just further that, as at this point, I'm still chair of Kettle Creek Conservation Authority, and Kettle Creek has been involved with discussions with the city of St. Thomas. So this new development is in the city, which rules might be a little bit different there. I would say staff are overwhelmed with how we find land to place trees on for this huge I can't remember how many acres of woodlot were removed, but it's substantial. And with the normal development, it's hard to keep up with finding farms to place trees on, gullies or natural areas. And this one is so big that staff are struggling to figure out how we're going to do that in conjunction with the city of St. Thomas. Because the city, they have no place to put trees to speak of, really. It's got to go outside the city.
I would agree with you on that. In fact, I'm not even aware that the city has a particular tree bylaw in place requiring them to replant trees. It'd be nice if they did, because they did take a substantial woodlot off. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, they do through the Conservation Authority, being in the authority's jurisdiction, but what extent, I don't know. Right now, we're still in the preliminary stages of figuring that one out.
Thank you for that. Yeah, Councillor Hens.
Mr. Warden, if I may just follow up on that point, if Kettle Creek is having trouble, can we not expand that to Lower Thames? I believe Dutton Dunwich would find land, and maybe other municipalities would find land. I would hate to walk away from what's due us as far as tree cover and their responsibility under ROP.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, Paul, thank you very much for that so far. I mean, it's generated some really interesting discussion. And I hopefully we've covered off the points that you wanted to make sure that were brought before council. If there's anything additional, please let us know.
Mr. Warden, again, I was very happy with the 2 points that were raised by council, just because I did really want to highlight those specific targets. There's not a whole lot else that I would probably suggest is salient enough to kind of single out as a separate discussion point. I think the one thing that I would want to stress, particularly to council, is even through the endorsement of the document at this time, if there's something else that comes along over the next month or so as we start to begin to move forward through the statutory process of approving the plan, there's still an opportunity for council to reconsider any policy, any target that we see in the document. So I just want to express that to council, that this is not a be all and end all, that, you know, if nothing is said today, that we can't make any more amendments, even after adoption, when we get to the province going through the approval. If there's an amendment that we would like to see introduced that even comes after the fact, after the adoption, we can always ask the province to modify the plan on our behalf. And I've done that in a number of occasions in other jurisdictions. So with that, I would probably suggest that if there's no other questions from council, I can certainly continue on with the rest of the report. But again, would just want to stress that I'm certainly happy if there's any questions that come up after the fact, that we can discuss them and bring them back up before council if needed, if that suits you, Mr. Warden.
That suits us fine. Thank you very much for that. So carry on, please.
Very good. So with respect to the third kind of tranche of recommendation or subject matter we're covering this morning, this is with respect to the statutory approvals process that, subject to council's endorsement of the document today and your direction today, will be going forward and commencing the final circulation of the final draft plan. This will go back out to the public, back out to statutory agencies again. But the crux of it is during this process, we'll also be organizing a statutory public open house and a statutory public meeting, both of which are required under the Planning Act before council endorses the very final version of the plan. The public open house is intended to provide an opportunity for members of the public or for public agencies to come out and learn more about the project and ask specific questions of clarification to ensure that members of the public and those commenting agencies have a full understanding of what's being proposed in terms of a policy framework. The public meeting is the opportunity where members of the public, statutory agencies, members of the development community can make formal submissions to the county to say, we understood, we came to the public, essentially we came to the public open house, we understand what's being proposed, and we'd now like to make a formal modification, or we request a formal change in a policy. So that's the purpose of the two meetings. And they essentially happen sequentially within usually about a month of each other, depending on timing. What we're looking for is some direction from council as to whether council would prefer these meetings to be held in person in Elgin County, or whether council would prefer to see them hosted virtually. Staff had a discussion internally about this with the interim CAO, with the municipal solicitor and myself to discuss kind of what would perhaps best suit Elgin County in terms of the delivery of these public meetings. The recommendation that we have before council today, which I'll call a loose recommendation in the sense that we'll certainly take your direction either way, and it is somewhat a matter of your preference. But our recommendation is to consider virtual meetings for both the public open house and the public meeting. And the reason for that I've outlined as being fourfold in the staff report, because the virtual setting does provide greater flexibility for individuals who are able to log in from their location, as opposed to having to travel a distance to the meeting, particularly in wintertime when we do anticipate these meetings occurring. So this would mean perhaps a member of a provincial ministry who might be based outside of the region, or CN Rail, or the list could go on, could attend without having to travel a great distance. In our experience, these types of meetings can be more easily recorded for the public record, and they provide a more accurate record of the comments and input that we receive over the course of the meeting. Instead of taking traditional minutes, we can simply record the meetings and we have it right from the horse's mouth, so to speak. The third rationale behind this is it provides for a better organized public meeting and multiple means of providing feedback during the virtual meetings, where people can either stand up on a public meeting virtually and provide their opinion, or if individuals may not be comfortable making statements in front of a large group, which is a very common issue we are faced with public meetings, they can also ask those questions or provide that input more discreetly using the chat functions. And the final rationale behind a recommendation for virtual meetings are they tend to be, and certainly this would be the case, they tend to be more cost effective, as they don't require staff's in-person attendance or consultants to travel to attend the meetings. We don't end up with issues around having to rent AV equipment or hall space for the hosting of the meetings. Notwithstanding that, we often find that the decision about whether they're in-person meetings or virtual meetings to be a local decision, in the sense that we find different regions have different levels of comfort and different styles in hosting the meeting. So certainly we would leave it at council's discretion to provide that direction to us. But the recommendation from staff at this time is that council consider a virtual meeting. So virtual meeting for the public open house and virtual meeting for the public meeting itself as well too. With that, that essentially ends and I'm certainly happy to pass it back to you, Mr. Warden, to advise as to what your direction would be, or open up the discussion on virtual versus in-person public meetings. But that's essentially the end of the crux of my report. So the Hemson report that we've covered, the changes that are outlined in the staff report to the final draft version of the official plan, and then we're seeking direction from council as to whether or not you wish to have an in-person or virtual public open house and public meeting.
Thank you very much for that, Paul. Thoughts from council members? In my mind, I don't have any problem with the virtual meeting, but have to recognize that we may have members of the community who may not be able to participate virtually. Paul, is there any options to include those individuals who would rather, say, scan a written copy, provide written comments back? I'm just throwing it
Certainly.
out there for council's consideration.
Absolutely, and certainly, Mr. Mayor, pardon me, Mr. Warden. So what we will see when we release the document, the final version, this will be posted. The final version of the document will be posted on Engage Elgin, the consultation platform, where if you've already subscribed for to that service, you'll receive notification that a new copy of the official plan is available for your review. We will be advertising that people can provide written comments via Engage Elgin. We also have a OP review at elgin.ca email address that we advise and advertise to the public that they can provide comments. So there's certainly those the written comments outside of any public meeting or public open house. They're certainly able to provide that way. If there are members that wish to attend the meeting, not participate, and may not be able to log in from their location, there's also the option that we could set up essentially satellite virtual public meetings. So look at opening up a library in the evening where individuals could go attend, watch, and participate in the public meetings that way. A little bit more of a hybrid model there, but we could certainly use some of the county facilities to open up a kind of hybrid version across the county.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that, Paul. Any other thoughts? Yes, Deputy Warden Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I was around for the last official plan quite a few years ago now. And it was much more controversial. A lot of stuff in it that people didn't want to see, especially developers. And it still had a very poor turnout at the public meeting. That's the problem. We go to a lot of work and very few people show up. And this one's much more, there's not a lot of controversy here, and I'd be surprised we have a huge turnout. I know Southwell's last official plan, we had a really, really poor turnout. Just for the same fact, there wasn't a lot of controversy, and so I think the virtual way to go is probably the best.
I agree with you and I concur. The experience that we've had even through Bayham the same way. You don't have a lot of public engagement. But I'm just thinking from a transparency point of view, just as long as there's the avenue available for people to, whether they gather through a virtual environment. And I like what Paul was suggesting, whether it's through the library system or something, it's an option for consideration. Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Warden, I agree that a hybrid solution, I mean, the first foray here into a finance open house, which staff put a lot of work into, and I think we recall who attended, but it was important, I think, that we hosted it. So a hybrid solution, if possible, where in this chamber or one of the rooms here was made available. I don't think they'll be knocking down the door, but as long as we have the opportunity, maybe a hybrid solution would be suggestible. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Anyone else? Okay. Jenna, have you captured some of those thoughts? You're working on it. Is there any other discussion on this particular topic before we call for the motion? Okay, seeing none. Whenever you're ready, Jenna.
Be it resolved that the report titled PS 24-1 County Official Plan Review, Final Draft of Official Plan dated January 9th, 2024 from the Acting Manager of Planning be received and filed. That council receives and files the update to Hemson Growth Forecasts and Land Needs Analysis Report dated November 17th, 2023 for information. And that council endorses the final draft Elgin County Official Plan dated January 9th, 2024, set out as attachment 1 to this report to council. And that council directs staff to schedule the statutory public open house and public meeting for the final draft official plan to be hosted virtually with a hybrid option made available to the public.
Okay, having heard the motion, is anyone willing to move and second? Counselor Sloan will move. Counselor Hentz will second. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Moving on with 6.4, Acting Manager Planning, PS 24-2, Application for Draft Plan of Subdivision. Paul, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. What is before council today is essentially a reapplication of a plan of subdivision that was previously approved by County Council in 2018. This is the Talbotville Meadows draft plan of subdivision located in Southwold. This is primarily a residential plan of subdivision that's comprised of 172 single detached building lots, 2 multi-unit development blocks, 2 commercial development blocks, 2 future development blocks, as well as the internal road network, parkland, and associated infrastructure. This is quite a large plan of subdivision that has already been developing in phases. So final approval has already been issued for certain phases of this plan of subdivision. Under the Planning Act, draft plans that are approved by County Council have a lapsing date or a lapsing date on the draft approval, which essentially means that when County Council grants a draft plan approval to any plan of subdivision, the applicant has 3 years to fulfill their conditions of draft plan approval, finalize the draft plan of subdivision, and essentially get shovels in the ground. If they don't fulfill those obligations in the 3-year period, the application the council's decision is deemed to have lapsed, and then the applicant goes back to square one. Occasionally, we have instances where a development application inadvertently lapses. And that's on the part of the applicant who may not have followed through on fulfilling their conditions in time and had inadvertently allowed it to lapse. And we're in one of these situations where, notwithstanding that final approval has been given to some of the existing phases of this 172 unit development, we have a situation where no further approvals can be given because the draft approval lapsed. So in this case, the applicants have essentially reapplied for what they applied for back in 2018. We have gone through an expedited circulation of the application to all technical agencies, because there's also been some approvals that have already been given. The Conservation Authority has already given their final approvals. Canada Post has already given final approvals on the plan of subdivision as well too. So we were essentially trying to go through an expedited review process to get to a point where we could reinitiate this draft approval. So what's before council today is essentially an approval for the same plan that council granted back or approved back in 2018, as well as a essentially slightly revised decision and number of conditions. And some of these conditions are the very same conditions that were in the existing 2018 approval. Some of them are new conditions or slightly reworded conditions because some time has passed since the circulated authorities provided their conditions. But what's before council today, again, is essentially a reapproval of what was granted back in 2018, so the applicants can carry on. In this case, should council grant draft approval to it, the applicants will now have until January of 2027 to fulfill their conditions. I won't speak on behalf of the applicants, but I can advise council that in every discussion that we've had with the applicants, is they are very eager to move forward with this plan of subdivision. This was very inadvertent on their part, and are very much eager to continue on to get shovels in the ground and to get houses built in Elgin County. And certainly I want to stress for council that our primary concern as members of staff and receiving this under the understanding that this approval had lapsed, and that there are purchase and sale agreements that that we're depending on this approval moving forward. We have been very concerned for the impact that this has on existing and future residents of Elgin County, and particularly of Southwold. So we've tried to move as expeditiously as we can to get this back before council, to make sure that we don't cause any more undue delays in the process, particularly for the existing and future residents that are looking to purchase lots within this plan of subdivision, or may have already purchased lots within this pre-purchase lots within this plan of subdivision. So I hope that clarifies kind of the any kind of the muddiness about why council's receiving this application again that they already approved in 2018. Certainly staff are satisfied with the approval that's before council, and Mr. Warden, I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that council may have on the matter.
Thank you for that, Paul. Does anyone have any comment, question? Deputy Warden Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Just a comment. Yeah, if the economic turn down hadn't downturn hadn't happened, this wouldn't be an issue, but developer dropped the ball.
Yeah. It happens. Anyone else? Okay, Jenna, please.
Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the County of Elgin grants draft plan approval to the draft plan of subdivision by Callan Dietz on behalf of Fari Holdings Corporation and dated December 7th, 2023, and that staff be directed to provide notice of this decision subject to the conditions of final approval in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Okay, mover and seconder, please. Councillor Sloan will move, Deputy Warden Jones will second. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. 6.5, the acting manager planning, PS 24-3, application for draft plan of subdivision 4043-24 Thomas Road, Township of Southwold. Yes, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, again. Yes. So this is much like the last application. This is, excuse me, another application for draft plan approval. This is the first time that council will be seeing this particular application, which is for the creation of 9 residential building lots that are fronting onto an existing road in the community of North Port Stanley. So not within the village of Port Stanley in central Elgin, but the community of North Port Stanley, which is located in Southwold. These lots will front onto an existing road. They will be serviced by partial services, in this case, municipal piped water and private on-site septic systems. The application has gone through the standard technical circulation. It has been endorsed by both township staff and township council. We have put together the standard conditions and a standard draft approval package for council's consideration today. Certainly, there are no concerns on the part of county staff and council moving forward with a draft approval for this application. With that, I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that council may have with regards to the application, Mr. Warden.
Thank you for that. I see our legal approaching the table. Nick, have you got something to add?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. Paul, sorry, could you just comment on the amended condition 10?
Thank you very much, Mr. Loeb. This was something in our large official plan presentation that I missed before council. We were advised late yesterday. I very much appreciate you bringing that to my attention, Mr. Loeb. We were advised yesterday at the very end of the day that there was one small minor change to the wording of the conditions that had been requested by the applicant. The change to the conditions has been endorsed by local staff. We certainly don't have any concerns with it. I'm happy to read it out specifically for council's consideration. But we are recommending a slight change to the motion, the resolution that's before council to incorporate this change. The existing condition 10 that is in your council packages states that the owner shall apply to the Land Division Committee of Elgin County to obtain the necessary easements that may be required for access to lots 8 and 9 to be conveyed in a form satisfactory to the municipality. What has been requested by the applicant and endorsed by local staff is that the condition be revised to read that the owner shall provide the necessary easements as may be required to access lots 8 and 9 to be conveyed in a form satisfactory to the local municipality. From my perspective, I've had the opportunity to discuss this with the applicant and local municipality. I don't have any concerns with the requested change. I would consider it quite editorial, in fact. But that being the case, we do have an amended motion before council to request that change be incorporated into the decision. And once again, my apologies for missing that. Just with the large official plan presentation, it slipped my mind.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. Any questions, concerns? Lots of development going on in Southwold. Okay, seeing no questions or having any concerns, comments, Jenna, please.
Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the County of Elgin grants draft plan approval to draft plan of subdivision by CJDL Consulting Engineers on behalf of Mr. Alan Rickwood and dated August 23rd, 2023, and that staff be directed to provide notice of this decision, subject to the conditions of final approval attached to this report in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act, including the following modification to condition 10, which shall now read that the owner shall provide the necessary easements as may be required for access to lots 8 and 9 to be conveyed in a form satisfactory to the municipality.
Okay, Counselor Sloan, you'll move that. Seconder? Counselor Hens. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And 6.6 from the Acting Manager of Planning, PS 24-4, Municipality of Bayham, OPA number 35, part of Lot 3, Concession 1, Municipality of Bayham, 53921 Nova Scotia line.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I believe this is the last time you have to hear from me today. What is before, pardon me, what is before County Council today is a proposed amendment to the town or municipality of Bayham's official plan that provides an exception to a policy that exists in the official plan. There is no corresponding policy in the county official plan, so there's no need to amend the county official plan. I think all members of County Council are aware of what a surplus farm dwelling is, but for those or maybe viewers who may not be aware of what a surplus farm dwelling severance is, we have a situation where a farmer lives on parcel A, he buys parcel B has a house on it, parcel B's house is surplus to the needs of the farmer because he already lives on parcel A, therefore the farmer can sever off that dwelling as surplus to his needs. So we have a proposal in front of us that was made in BAM for this to happen. And BAM's official plan requires that the farmer who lives on Farm A must also live in BAM. And in this case, the farmer lives in an adjacent municipality in Malahide. So in this case, the municipality of BAM is looking to approve an exception to their policy to exempt the requirement that the farmer must live in BAM to proceed with a surplus farm dwelling severance. Again, there's no corresponding policy in the county official plan with regards to this. This is a requirement that sometimes you do see in local official plans, and in this case, BAM does require this. The farmer lives approximately 4.2 kilometers away from the parcel that he's seeking to sever. So as such, certainly staff don't have any issue recommending that county council grant this exemption and this amendment to their official plan. And the amendment I can confirm for council has both the support of local staff and local council. Mr. Warden, I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that council may have, but the recommendation before you is for an approval of this exemption to the municipality of BAM's official plan.
Thank you very much for that explanation, Paul. Does anyone have any questions or concerns? Yep, Deputy Warden Jones.
Thank you, Warden. Yeah, no, I have no problem. I think Southwold's official plan states any farmer that lives in Elgin, so maybe that's something Bayham might want to entertain at some point.
Well, thank you for that. We're actually beginning our OP review process in BAM, and that I think is one of the issues that we will be considering. Yeah. Seeing nothing further, Jenna, please.
Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the County of Elgin approves official plan amendment number 35 to the official plan of the municipality of Bayham, and that staff be directed to provide notice of this decision in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Do we have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Noble and Councillor Jiguer will second. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Then thank you very much, Paul. A lot of work went into this one today, so you earned your keep.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. Have a great day, all.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's coming up on the hour. Is anyone interested in a comfort break? Shall we take 10 minutes? Okay, we stand recessed. Welcome back. We left off at section 6.7, Director of Homes and Senior Services, Homes Amendment to the Multi-Sector Service Accountability Agreement. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning, Mr. Warden, and through you to the members of council. The Corporation of the County of Elgin has a multi-sector service accountability agreement, otherwise known as an MSAW, with Ontario Health, which includes our adult day programs at both Beaubier Villa and Terrace Lodge. And Ontario Health has provided us with notice of its intent to amend the 2023-2024 MSAW agreement. While maintaining the current agreement structure, the amendments are related strictly to funding, and it is outlined in the agenda package, but it is a good news story because it's a net increase of $16,775 for the 2023-2024 year. The net increase in funding will be utilized to support staffing and services with the adult day program at both of the two homes. And the completed and signed MSA letter will be forwarded as required to Ontario Health within the required timelines if approved by council, and the recommendations are before you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that report, Michelle. Does anyone have any questions? Jenna, please.
Be it resolved that the report titled Homes Amendment of Multi-Sector Service Accountability Agreement, MSAW, dated January 9th, 2024, from the Director of Homes and Senior Services be received and filed, and that council authorize staff to sign the CCA Section 22 Notice and Amendment of Multi-Sector Service Accountability Agreement Amendment Letter.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Cookett and Councillor Noble will second. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. 6.8, Director of Homes and Senior Services, Homes Meals on Wheels Agreement, Elgin and the West Elgin Community Health Center. I think I got that right.
You did. Thank you, Mr. Warden, through you to members of council. So the purpose of this report is to seek council approval for the execution of the Meals on Wheels supply agreement with Elgin County and West Elgin Community Health Center. So Beaubier Villa currently prepares meals for West Elgin Community Health Center Meals on Wheels program through an agreement which ended January 4th, 2024. In consultation with the county solicitor, we have reached consensus with representatives of West Elgin Community Health Center for a new meal supply agreement for the time period of January 5th, 2024 to September 30th, 2025. The draft agreement was included in the agenda package, and the annual price increases are included in the report. Based upon a review of current and forecasted labor, food, and packaging costs, the price increase recommendations will support costs associated with both preparing and providing Meals on Wheels services to seniors in West Elgin communities. Additionally, modest net revenues to Elgin are anticipated for the term of the proposed agreement. And so staff is pleased to recommend an agreement to council to provide services with a minimal price increase to community residents, and seeks approval and authorization to execute the agreement to do so. And the recommendations are before you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for that report. Councillor Sloan.
Through you, Warden, to Michelle, how many meals a year? I'm just out of curiosity.
When we met in November, it was about 30 meals per day.
Thank you.
Okay. Additional questions? I'm just curious, Michelle, why the 21-month contract period, not 2 years?
Great question. So typically it would be 2 years. The agreement that we have for the other two homes ends in September. So we wanted to align, and West Elgin Community Health Center was agreeable to that amendment.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Perfect. Okay, Jenna, please.
Be it resolved that the report titled Homes Meals on Wheels Agreement, Elgin and West Elgin Community Health Center, dated January 9th, 2024, from the Director of Homes and Senior Services be received and filed, and that council authorize the warden and chief administrative officer to execute the agreement between Elgin and West Elgin Community Health Center, WECHC, for the time period of January 5th, 2024 to September 30th, 2025.
Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Counselor Sloan and Counselor Hentz. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Moving on to 6.9, Director of Financial Services, Treasurer, Budget Software Solution Contract Award. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning, Mr. Warden, through you to members of council. In October of 2023, council approved staff to proceed with an upgrade to replace manual procedures and spreadsheets related to our budget delivery process. After approval, an RFP was then created and issued on November 8th and closed on December 1st. An evaluation team was assembled as per Appendix 2 in your report in order to evaluate the proposals received. In total, 3 potential vendors submitted proposals to our advertised request, and after the criteria was evaluated and weighted by the team, the pricing was factored into the weighting process. The proposal submitted by Questica was determined to be the highest scoring submission. Also, subsequent inquiries have been very positive related to this product. Budget requirements for implementation and subscription costs from years 1 to 5 are outlined, with the ability to extend the use of the system after the 5-year contract has ended. Details of the RFP are provided in Appendix 1 for council's information, and the recommendations are before council for consideration before moving forward with contract signing and implementation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Sloan.
Hi there. Sorry, it's through you, Warden, to Jennifer, apologies. I couldn't find the actual other quotes that came in. Is that through attachment? Which attachment is that? Or is it attachment 2? Because I couldn't find them unless I'm looking in the wrong place.
I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
I don't have the full report before me, but there were 2 other ones. They were listed on the RFP at the back. There was the names of the submissions that were put in, that people that took the submissions. So the actual bidders were 3, Vena, Questica, and Sylphite. Yeah, that's right. Sylvia, Sylphite. Those was only the 3 that were submitted, so.
Sorry, and again, through you, Warden
Yeah.
and Jennifer, and the amounts of those, are they in this document?
They are not. That weighting was quite heavy on the pricing, and even with the pricing being a bit lower for those other ones, Questica was still the winner of the awarded the tender. Yeah.
And just through you, Warden, again, the weighting or costs for these other 2 proponents, is that available?
It is, yes, we can provide that.
Okay.
Additional questions? Jen, I noticed within the report, you're talking about going live with the product in June of 24. Is it going to require a 5-month ramp up to get staff ready to do this, or can it go live sooner?
That is the recommendation from the group that's implementing the system. We've heard through some of the other proposals or through the other references that in some cases it has taken longer because once they determine what the functionality is, some of the budget processes are changing in order to make it more efficient. So it's taking a bit longer to revise your budget process in order to make it more efficient. We're hoping that's not the case for us, and that we will be able to meet that target.
Okay, I was just thinking from my understanding, there's a lot of duplicate entries on spreadsheets, and just updating the system quicker rather than later, I thought would be beneficial for county processes. Councillor Sloan.
I have a concern that we're essentially going out 9 years with a contract. I just would like a little bit more understanding, first of all, as I said, about who else applied for this. Looking at net present for a 9-year contract, that's with the potential of two extensions after 5 years. Could could I understand why it needs to be 5 years and why we're making a decision today on something for 2028? Thank you.
We had brought forward a request for budgeting software earlier in October, and that we intended to have a product that we would be able to rely on for multiple years, as opposed to having to implement something multiple times. So once you do an implementation, it does take a bit of time, like we said, 6 months in order to do that implementation. And so once you're involved and you have that functionality, it's a bit tedious to every 2 or 3 years go out to tender and redo your budgeting process. So it is hoped that we will be happy with this and that we will have, after 5 years, a good understanding of whether we want to change that or go out to find another product that we would want to do. We do have the option to extend it for 2 additional 2-year periods. We don't have to. It's only a 5-year contract.
Thank you. Through you, Warden. Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay. Why not baptismal by fire? Mr. Parkin, you and I had a conversation, and I believe you have some experience around this particular software, and perhaps maybe share with council to provide some comfort level.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you to members of council. Yes, I do have a fair bit of experience with the Questica solution. It was the solution that we implemented in my previous employer, and honestly, our financial people, as well as our other people throughout the organization, were actually extremely happy with how the product performed. It has tremendous potential for not only budgeting, but financial planning, and the reporting is also exceptional, which is something that I will be speaking with Jennifer and members of council on moving forward as our reporting framework and becoming a little more robust in that area. So from my experience, it provided everything that we needed and then some. It's a very powerful tool and certainly sized appropriately for the size of the organization. So nothing but good experience.
Thank you for that. Any additional comments, questions? Councillor Noble?
Through you, Mr. Warden, what were we using up until this point, and what was the cost for that?
Through you, Mr. Warden, to Councillor Noble, we were using spreadsheets. We are still using spreadsheets, and the cost to that is our time. It's very labor intensive, and it doesn't integrate well together. So we're having to double check, triple check numbers, and that does take an enormous amount of time during the process. So the cost is Excel and our time. So
There'd be a cost savings on the labor side and more efficiency. Thank you.
absolutely, yes.
That is the goal. Yes, Jen, please.
Through you, Mr. Warden, to council, the additional benefits that we are also looking for is to be able to provide managers with more timely reporting for their monthly reports. Right now, that is not user friendly, and we have a lot of support that we have to give to our managers in order for them to get their information. So this is going to enable them to have a lot more ability to get the information when they need it, not when we're available to give it to them. So.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, Jenna, I think we're ready for the motion.
Be it resolved that the contract for a budget software solution be awarded to Questica Incorporated for a 5-year term, and that staff be authorized to extend the contract for an additional 2 2-year terms for a potential 9-year contract in accordance with Section 7.6 of the procurement policy, subject to satisfactory performance and mutual agreement between both parties during the initial 5-year contract term, and that the warden and chief administrative officer be authorized to sign the contract.
Do we have a mover and seconder for that motion? Councillor Jagir and Deputy Warden Jones. All in favor? I didn't see any opposed. Okay, carried. Thank you. I looked down quickly. Section 610, Director of Human Resources, the 2024 Non-Union Economic Adjustment Recommendation. Good morning, Amy.
Good morning, Warden and members of council. Through you, Warden, non-union salaries are reviewed annually to ensure that the county continues to pay competitively to the market. Recommended adjustments to wages are made on the basis of both benchmark data and comparative market trends, which are detailed within the report. We don't presently know the 2024 increase for 2 of our 3 bargaining unit groups, as we still have active negotiations underway with those 2 groups. And considering all of the comparative data included within the report, a recommendation for a 3% increase to non-union and council remuneration is before council for consideration. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that council might have about the report and the recommendation.
Thank you, Amy. Does anyone have any questions, concerns? You have written a very comprehensive report. You've provided a lot of data sets in here. I thank you for that. It's a difficult thing I know to bring forward, but it's part of the job. Yes, Deputy Warden Jones.
I guess the only comment I can make, thank you, Warren, is it's part of being competitive and keeping up with the marketplaces. We have good staff and want to keep them.
I agree. Okay, Jenna, please.
Be it resolved that County Council approve a non-union economic adjustment of 3% effective the first full pay period of 2024, and that the necessary bylaw be prepared.
Do we have a mover and seconder, please? Counselor Widner and Counselor Hentz will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 611, Director of Engineering Services, sale of surplus property, 8776 Centennial Road. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, Mr. Warden. Through you to the rest of County Council. In 2021, County Council approved the purchase of portions of 7 private properties, including 8776 Centennial Road in its entirety. And this was to accommodate the new roundabout at the intersection of Elm and Centennial. Now that this construction is complete, this property is deemed surplus to the county's needs and can be disposed of. A drawing depicting the pre-existing property conditions and the portion utilized for the road allowance expansion to accommodate the new roundabout is provided in the report, as well as a newer aerial photograph showing the resulting property at 8776 Centennial Road to be sold. Quotations will be solicited for real estate services to sell the property, and the proceeds are from the sale are recommended to be allocated toward the Elm Street and Centennial Road project as planned. I'd be pleased to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you for that report, Peter. Does anyone have any questions? Counselor Sloan.
Through you, Warden, is there a process with respect to how we go about finding, as you say here, what is it? The quotations will be solicited. Can you take me through that process, please?
Possibly the Director of Legal Services may explain this. Thank you. And we also have Ms. Ford here because this is actually truly a procurement issue. But so the reason I came over is this house was acquired for road widening purposes. So it's actually exempt from our typical surplus land bylaw processes where there's a very formal way that we get appraisals done. The reason this report's before you is this is not typically like the 1-foot strip we get for road widening purposes. It's an entire house. So in terms of retaining things like real estate agents and sorting out the value, that just follows our regular procurement process essentially, in a way that's sort of unrelated to the just the fact that it's a disposition of land in this instance. So depending on the estimated cost, it just falls under the normal purchasing authority and processes of how we go about doing that. So hopefully that's
sufficient answer.
Sorry, through you, Warden, it isn't. I don't understand what you're saying, Nick. I apologize.
So essentially,
Are you going to get a real estate agent, or I'd like to know how the process works, if you don't mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So through our procurement policy, we will solicit quotations from real estate providers based on an assumption of, say, a 4% selling price. We had completed an appraisal of the property prior to the construction as a starting point. There were some nominal improvements made to the property during the construction facilitation. For instance, there is a new sanitary service provided, new gas service. We paved the driveway, new concrete porch, some landscaping, but the property size itself is significantly less. We think those might be close to offsetting. So we have a relatively decent idea of a starting point of what the property may be worth. We'll add 4% to that. That'll put us in a price range that will then trigger a procurement activity process and a procurement policy, which we're assuming will be quotations. So we'll issue 3 quotations to a local broker. Locally, we'll hire based on price alone, and then we'll allow that broker to list the property via MLS.
Exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Anything further? Okay, Jenna, please.
Be it resolved that the residential property known as 8776 Centennial Road be declared surplus to the needs of the County of Elgin, and that the proceeds from the sale of 8776 Centennial Road be allocated towards the Elm Street Centennial Road Roundabout Project 609019117, and that staff be directed to proceed as outlined in this report.
Do we have a mover and seconder for that, please? Councillor Hentz and Deputy Warden Jones. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. 612, Director of Legal Services, LS 24-1, Delegation of Authority bylaw. Nick?
thank you, Warden. So through you to council. So I'm returning from our November the 28th, 2023 meeting with reports for further information on the delegation of authority bylaw. The bylaw itself in the report was deferred at that time for this purpose, so that council had an opportunity to digest the bylaw and also have an opportunity to follow up for further information should they wish to. The 2 items that I had received as questions on November the 28th are addressed in the report, and I didn't receive any further follow-up following November 28th in addition to those questions. So those are the 2 that are dealt with here. The first question was the reason for choosing either conjunctive or disjunctive delegations of authority where 2 or more authorized officers or employees were noted. And really what that means is, why does it say and or and/or? And that question was very helpful because it led to a review and ultimately a red line of certain provisions in the delegation of authority to clean that up a little bit. And then also the way the bylaw is constructed is, absent a professional reason why someone couldn't, any delegation you see naturally flows through the supervisor of that person. So if something were a manager in the engineering department, then anything the manager can do, so can Peter, and so can the CAO, essentially, as the director and then the CAO. Where that's not possible, by way of example, with my professional designation as a lawyer, there's certain things that CAO couldn't do, or if it was an engineering stamp drawing, obviously, well, sorry, our CAO is an engineer, bad example. In certain instances, you can see how that would sort of stop it from occurring. So as a result, I redlined the document to clear up those items, and then I've provided a description where they continue to appear that hopefully explains why either the word and or in each instance is there. And it largely goes to the subject matter expertise of the various managers and directors that are receiving the delegation, and to create checks and balances in each of those instances. The second question I received was essentially, how are the monetary thresholds that are included in the bylaw created, and then to what extent controls existed over the decision-making authority if it's exercised. And I've provided a description, and my overall summary is there is no hard and fast way that these were created. They were created by me. So I've provided an explanation of each one of them in each instance. So I've started with the authority for my office and legal services to settle claims at $35,000 is delegated to the solicitor, who is the other lawyer in my department. That's his title, so that's why it says solicitor. And 35,000 is the jurisdiction of the small claims court. So that just logically made sense that we'd be able to settle things in the small claims court should we receive them or initiate them. Between 35,000 and 100,000, it's the CAO clerk and the director of legal services, now that there's been a revision, it's both of us, must jointly agree to resolve it. And if we can't jointly agree, then the matter would be addressed by council. The reason for the 100,000 was sort of based on a few different factors. One is there is a limitation on it that it must be within an approved budget. So certain projects, if the dispute arose in a project, has a project budget line. Otherwise, there are various budgets or employment disputes, which I'll speak to later. There's a potential for gapping dollars, which will keep it within budget. And so if it's not going to be within an approved budget, then this delegation of authority doesn't exist and we would come to council. So presuming you're within an approved budget, the other factors that I sort of took into consideration are, this is still well below what directors are typically entrusted with under the purchasing policy, which has that same control of an approved budget when they're expending funds. I acknowledge the distinction between the two is that when we're purchasing something, we're receiving a good or service. When we're resolving a dispute, presumably a problem has arose. So there's not the same value attached to the money. So it's significantly less. And then the third was just in the grand scheme of sort of legal disputes, $100,000 is not a tremendous amount of money. So in Ontario, there's a different set of rules for claims under $200,000. That's called simplified rules. If you end up in court, that expedite the court process to keep the legal costs down. So all of this is still within what in the civil litigation world would be considered a smaller claim within the Superior Court. And so that's my recommendation as a reasonable threshold. It also aligns with some of the local municipalities and other entities of our size in terms of the delegated authority you sometimes see. I haven't produced a comprehensive chart, but I did check a few of them to make sure that we weren't completely out of line with similar entities. There's then a variation that I've noted in the report about HR matters specifically. And so those delegations of authority are $50,000 rather than the $100,000. And again, there's some controls that I've outlined in the report in the paragraph on page 2. And then the last one I wanted to note there was, or sorry, in the monetary section is there's actually a restriction on the ability to accept gifts of greater than $25,000. So this goes to donations to the county, which often would come through community cultural services to the museum, but may be donations of another kind. And the reason for that is if someone wants to donate something rather significant, like an exceptional piece of art, or something much larger like a piece of land or a house, there's significant ongoing maintenance costs that come with that donation. And so those things above 25,000, in the way the delegation of authority bylaw looks at that amount is inclusive of any sort of protections we have to put on it. So if it's a piece of art, is there cleaning, is there lighting that has to be put on it? And then the ongoing maintenance costs of it. So that council can make a decision on whether or not you want it, because, in the initial intuitive instance, it's a wonderful thing to be offered a donation of that amount. But there are considerations, and I've worked in municipalities where that has not worked out over time to the extent that it was initially hoped. So those are the financial amounts that are in there. And I'm happy to answer questions that council may have about the delegation of authority bylaw.
Thank you for that report, Nick. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Sloan.
Through you, Warden. What's the budget for legal for the County of Elgin for 2024, please, Nick?
So
In its entirety.
I would have to look to Miss Ford if she knows it offhand. Oh, she's not here anymore. Sorry. Did not intend to do that. I thought she was by me there. So I don't know the answer to that. Our budget is within administrative services and is essentially made up of our salaries, insurance, and so on. We don't have an external budget line in our department that is specific to our use. And unfortunately, I just don't know the answer to your question.
Thank you. For 2024, if we were to take on external legal, what's our budget for that? How's that budgeted through the process here?
So generally speaking, when we require external legal counsel, it's either related to a specific project and we look if, into whether or not it's within the project budget. In the instance where we have external counsel engaged at the moment on a significant piece of litigation, which is the Port Bruce Bridge collapse, that is brought to council and specifically authorized by council in that instance. So we have the bridge collapse in 2018. There is plaintiff side counsel acting on behalf of the county of Elgin, and that was authorized by council and presented with roughly how much the estimated cost was and what we're hoping to recover. That tends to be how I would go about it anytime we're stating external, because part of what I report to council is why the recommendation to use external counsel is part of it rather than using staff lawyers.
Thank you. Through you, Warden. So if you wanted to use external counsel and the bill was going to be $100,000, just to confirm, you don't have to come to council for it.
Under the purchasing policy, I do not have to come to council for it. I would have to follow the procurement rules. In the only instances where external counsel has arisen since my arrival, we have come to council in any event to sort of advise them of it.
Thank you. And having been here a short time, I appreciate that that came to council, but it doesn't seem to me that it would have to come to council under this document. Can you just confirm that, please?
So this document doesn't vary that authority. That authority is, comes under the purchasing and procurement bylaw. The authority here is to actually settle the claims under it. So it's to say we agree to this offer to either pay or receive, if we're the plaintiff, $55,000, that kind of thing.
And respect through the warden to Nick, we have items on our agenda from 30 meals at a care home, which are helping the community, to instances where, I don't mean to disagree, but you said to me you said to the council $100,000 is not a lot of money in the context of a legal dispute. And I think that it is. And I just have some concerns that with delegation of authority, some of these items, regardless of, it comes to council if it's not, quote, in the budget, but there's a lot of things where they're in the budget. And to me, $100,000 is something that this council should have purview over. Thank you, Warden.
All right. Additional questions, comments? Councilor Jiguer.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate all the additional clarity that was provided through the edits, the revisions. That was a job well done. And I think generally speaking, I appreciate then the two-stage process. I think that was valuable. I know initially, I think we were planning on passing the bylaw like third reading on the same day. And that continues to be my recommendation. I think we see the value here of doing a two-stage process. So thank you, and hopefully a new habit to adopt.
Councilor Widner.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. For you to Nick. Nick, the 100,000 limit, is that per claim or per instance? Just to clarify it for myself? Or is it in total?
So that would be any individual claim. If there was a scenario where there was, like if a single event occurred where there was multiple parties involved and the totality of it was over $100,000, I would still, I wouldn't attempt to parcel out it's 50 here, it's 50 here, it's 50 here, and therefore I'm fine to settle it to give some level of comfort. But the way that I would look at it is similar to insurance, which is per incident. So any dispute or claim arising out of an event or a contract dispute or whatever it may be, it is how I would parcel it out. It's not an aggregate over the total year, though.
Okay, thank you. So if we had, let's just make this silly, but if 3 claims come in and we're up to $300,000, we wouldn't know till budget time. And I agree with Councillor Sloan. 100,000 to me is a lot of money. I'd like to know before budget and rather than get surprised, but that's just my opinion.
Councilor Sloan.
Thank you, Warden. Just a quick question, if I may, Mr. Parkin. Is this something that you've obviously have some background in this from a municipality? As someone that's relatively new to this and looking at it from what it would be in the private sector versus municipal politics, could you just give your opinion on how Elgin County is faring or compares to other jurisdictions, sir?
Thank you, Councillor Sloan, and through you, Warden, 2 members of council. From my review of this, I would say we are fairly consistent with what I've seen in the municipal sector. What I would like to see and what I'd certainly recommend to council going forward, and this is, again, I referenced it earlier, is what I've normally implemented with respect to delegation of authority is that notwithstanding the authority has been delegated to address certain items, and that's primarily for consistently in providing services and efficiencies with just the ongoing business of the county. That doesn't preclude council being informed on a regular basis through more robust reporting. So what I've normally implemented in the past is, notwithstanding that authority being delegated, council would be updated on what was decided by staff in accordance with the delegation of authority bylaw on a quarterly basis. So when we look at bringing a more robust quarterly reporting framework to council, it would have those items all identified as to where the decisions were made should council have any of those questions that we can provide greater detail. I found that that's been successful in the past and that council is continuously updated with where things are at or how that bylaw has been utilized by staff going forward. I found that to be fairly successful.
Through you, Warden. Sorry, thank you very much.
Councillor Jiguer.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Yeah, and in fact, I guess I should not have assumed, but that would be my expectation because the parallel to the procurement and purchasing, even though it's delegated, we do get regular updates on listing all of the purchases that were within budget, but we're still informed. So definitely that would be my expectation. So I'm glad you said that it is yours as well. Thank you.
Additional questions, comments? Okay, we're at, Deputy Warden Jones?
Thank you, Warden. Just a comment. I guess my years here, I've never been surprised by any major implications like this. Always, we've been given a heads up that this is happening. I don't see an issue with it.
All right, thank you for that. Okay, I guess we're ready for the question then, Jenna, please.
Be it resolved that the report titled LS 24-1 Delegation of Authority Bylaw dated January 9th, 2024 from the Director of Legal Services be received and filed, and that council pass bylaw number 23-44, the Delegation of Authority Bylaw.
Do we have a mover and seconder for this? Councillor Jiguer will move. Deputy Warden Jones will second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, it's carried. Thank you. 613, Director of Legal Services, LS 24-2 Indemnification Bylaw. Nick?
Thank you, Warden, and through you to council. So this is a similar context. On November the 28th, I had brought forward the indemnification bylaw and it was deferred for further information. I did receive a number of follow-up questions or comments with regard to this bylaw, and I've sought to answer each of those in the topic categories that are listed throughout the report. I've essentially grouped them together because some of them were the same question from different councillors, essentially. And so I'll just sort of jump directly into the meat of the explanations to the comments I got, starting with one that doesn't appear in the report is, was there a specific event or genesis for bringing this report in terms of timing? And the answer is no, there was no sort of near miss or scare that did it. This arose when I became Director of Legal Services in terms of meeting with the CAO and developing a departmental plan for the first year. A lot of that initial departmental plan was internal to Legal Services, but there was external facing components of addressing some gaps in existing county policies or bylaws. This was one of them. And so I proposed bringing that within the first year. We had anticipated bringing it last spring, and then that wasn't possible. I readdressed it with Mr. Shropshire, who agreed to go ahead and bring it. So that's how we arrived here. So there wasn't any specific legal claim that caused this to arise. It's just my view that it's a very important bylaw and should be adopted by the municipality. So one of the questions I received was why the application to volunteers? Which led me to then sort of dig into our volunteer programs a bit more. And essentially that's been removed. So the volunteer coverage is included in our corporate liability policies in terms of insurance, but we don't have volunteer firefighters, and we don't have large, robust volunteer programs related to specifically the risk areas of large special events that are administered by us, or community facilities where you see folks running essentially athletic programs. And so we do have volunteers, and thank you to all volunteers who work with the county. But the likelihood of a claim against them is remote enough that they could be dealt with on a one-off basis. So that's just been removed to just ease of reading and clarification on what the bylaw is applicable to. There's also a question about application to local boards, and I should have explained this in the first report because the definition of board in the bylaw is just staked to the Municipal Act definition. So I've given you the Municipal Act definition in this updated report, and it essentially means any committee, commission, board, et cetera, that's in the definition there, that exercises authority on behalf of the municipality under either the Municipal Act or any other act. The easiest way to explain this is the Land Division Committee. So it's an authorized committee under the Planning Act. It exercises authority that otherwise council would have. And so in terms of this indemnity bylaw covering local boards, that's the kind of thing that is being covered there. So the individuals that are appointed to it that are not members of council are covered if they're ever sued in a proceeding for their work on the Land Division Committee, not for any other aspect of their life or other municipal positions they may hold. We also recommend that remains in there in the sense that for as long as this bylaw exists, council may create more boards or committees that would then fall under this definition. In terms of clarification on the application to former members and employees, I can clarify that yes, the scope of this bylaw is applicable to former members of either council or local boards or employees, provided that the incident that's the underlying premise of the legal proceeding is about something that occurred while they were a member and performing the duties of whatever position it is they held. So essentially, if an employee is here during an incident that departs for other employment and a lawsuit is initiated a year later, they're still covered by indemnity because they worked here at the time that this all occurred. There were some questions about the exclusions section. One was just nomenclature, which was suddenly after using eligible person throughout, the word member appeared. That section was only really applicable to members of council and local boards, but given that there's a consistent use before that, I switched it to eligible person. There was a question about what both sections 4.4 and 11.1.1 meant because it refers to third parties. And in the simplest form, this is with regard to shared services. So if county employees are working for one of the local municipalities under a shared services agreement, all this does is clarify that the county considers that to be part of their county duties, which my hope is that is obvious on the face of it, but this just codifies that even though you're doing work for whatever local municipality it may be across our different shared services group, that the county knows you're doing that work and that's part of the service and duties that you hold as a county employee. There is also a question as to the interaction with insurance, and I've provided an explanation in the report. Essentially, anytime that insurance is engaged, the processes regarding insurance take over. The one area that this bylaw does cover is the below deductible amount. So if an employee or member of council is sued and insurance takes care of amounts above $50,000, to the extent a deductible needs to be paid, it's not the individual employee or member of council's responsibility to pay the first $50,000. The county will pay that amount to the insurance company, which also, to be clear, that is generally how it plays out anyway. The insurance company sends the bill to the county to be paid. And then the last piece was the administration of the bylaw and dispute resolution. So there's a number of instances where determinations, whether it's to eligibility, approving additional steps in a legal proceeding or approving settlement, are set out. And there's no precise criteria of how that determination will be made. That is intentional insofar as there's a vast, almost infinite amount of facts that could arise. And so it's difficult to codify a set of factors that just may not be applicable to the nature of a claim that comes up. With regard to eligibility, the most likely area of dispute is whether a person was acting as an employee. So whether they're performing their duties at the time an incident arose. The reason I say that's the most likely area is that is where most vicarious liability case law arises out of is, if you were traveling down the highway to go somewhere on behalf of the municipality, you're clearly at work because you're driving for the purpose of work. But if you stop and get a coffee and spill that coffee on someone else, are you performing your duties just because you happen to be traveling, or is you stopping for coffee sort of your own personal time? So there are nuanced situations like that where this question of eligibility comes up. The person who's empowered in the administration of the bylaw to make decisions is the CAO. In terms of an eligibility decision, myself, unless I'm conflicted out, would provide a legal opinion to the CAO to assist him in making a decision about eligibility. That process essentially mirrors what insurance companies do. So if insurance companies have a question about whether the policy coverage is applicable or whether they have a duty to defend, they typically get a legal opinion to inform their decision-making. And then there is not a formal appeal process, save and except one section about further steps in the proceedings in this bylaw. And essentially that's because any dispute about eligibility or settlement approval would just come to council if there was an appeal. So we would just bring a report to the whole of council at that time. I'm aware that other municipalities sometimes strike a committee for this kind of thing. And I think it's okay, given the size of our municipality and we don't frequently see claims, to just bring them to council. I don't think the committee has the same level of efficiency here that some large municipalities that receive claims all the time basically get. So those are the various comments I received, and hopefully the report itself in this presentation helps clarify all of those elements. But as always, I'm very happy to answer questions about either these follow-up questions or just any other questions council may have.
All right, thank you, Nick, for that report. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Slow.
I'm just have a question. I'm gonna actually ask, I'm not an expert on vicarious liability, so I'm gonna ask again, Mr. Parkin. I hate to put you on the spot here, but it's very helpful for me to get an understanding of what this bylaw actually means. And your sort of a Cole's notes and elevator speech, if you will, on how this affects us as a council. I'd appreciate, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Sloan, and through you, Warden, to members of council. I too am not an expert in vicarious liability. I will look to Mr. Loeb and our legal counsel to speak with that. From what I have seen in the past, this indemnification bylaw is actually a little more comprehensive than what I've seen, which is good, because I would always recommend to council that clarity and expectations and responsibilities generally is always beneficial for all parties involved. So the more comprehensiveness that I've seen in this bylaw versus ones I've seen in the past, I was pleased to see. With respect to the decision-making in that, again, it's consistent with what I've seen with, it does lie with the CAO pending legal advice to that person. And again, those issues would always come before council, is in my opinion. But that's, I think my high level comments on this, I can certainly look into it in greater detail if council wishes, but those are my high level thoughts, Warden.
Through you, Warden. Thanks, Mr. Parkin. That's great.
Additional questions, comments? Councillor Shiger.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. At the risk of repeating myself, I just think it's important to reiterate that I appreciate that we took our time and it allowed for a lot of comments and really solid revisions and positioning. So just puts more confidence in the implementation of this policy. So thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Additional? Anyone else? All right, I think we're ready for the question, Jenna.
Be it resolved that the report titled LS 24-2 Indemnification Bylaw dated January 9th, 2024 from the Director of Legal Services be received and filed, and that council pass bylaw 23-43, the indemnification bylaw.
Anyone interested in moving and seconding that? Councillor Noble will move. Councillor, it's good. Get him on the record. Councillor Latham will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Nick. That brings us to section 7, council correspondence, 7.2 items for information to consent agenda. There are 8 pieces of correspondence. Has anyone, any interest or comment on any of the correspondence? Deputy Warden?
I guess our first item, the hospice, it's nice to see the city has stepped up. That puts pressure on us now.
Yes, it certainly does.
Also, town criers report, it's nice to see Dave back on the mend and obviously he's said if you want to see him at an event, you need to call him.
Absolutely. The only other item that I might raise attention to is the local immigration partnership survey report. It was interesting, a good read. Gives you an idea of what the thinking is for newcomers to our community and perhaps where we can make some improvements to make them more welcome. Other than that, it was good to receive the correspondence, but I don't see any interest out there in taking any action on it. Okay, Jenna, please.
Be it resolved that correspondence items 7.2.1 to 7.2.8 be received and filed.
Do we have a mover and seconder for that, please? Deputy Warden Jones. And I believe Councillor Noble will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I have to keep remembering to look up Councillor Latham, and I will promise to do better. Moving on to section 8, 8.1, statements, inquiries by members. Does anyone have any statements today? 8.2, notice of motion. 8.3, matters of urgency. Moving on then to closed meeting items.
Be it resolved that we do now proceed into closed meeting session in accordance with the Municipal Act to discuss the following matters under Municipal Act, Section 239-2. Closed meeting item number 1, closed meeting minutes, December 6, 2023. Closed meeting item number 2, potential disposition of land, Section 239-2C. And closed meeting item number 3, boundary adjustment matter, Section 239-2H.
Mover and seconder for that, please. Councillor Sloan will move. Councillor Noble will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Welcome back. Motion to rise and report.
Be it resolved that we do now rise and report.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Sloan will move. Councillor Noble will second. All in favor? That's carried. Closed meeting item number 1, the closed meeting minutes from December 6th, 2023.
Be it resolved that the closed meeting minutes from the December 6th, 2023 meeting of County Council be adopted.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Hentz, and I saw Deputy Warden Jones. All in favor? That's carried. Closed meeting item number 2, disposition of, potential disposition of land.
Be it resolved that staff proceed as directed.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Noble and Councillor Hentz. Thank you. All in favor? That's carried. Brings us to closed meeting item number 3, boundary adjustment matter.
Be it resolved that council establish a steering committee for the purposes of the boundary adjustment matter.
Okay. Discussion first? Yes. All right, first of all, let's set perhaps the membership of that particular steering committee, or at least recommended in a motion, and then possibly a mandate.
Well, I would suggest 4 members of council. We can't go over that, I don't think.
Okay.
I guess you could. At that point, then it's a council meeting, but I think probably 4 is the most we can have.
All right.
So obviously the warden. Well, I would like to sit on it, but I don't have to sit on it.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I was indicating was the meeting on Friday was the intention to capture the areas that were probably most impacted, which includes South Wold and Central Elgin. So I would think that perhaps representation from those areas would be good, but not necessary. And I'll entertain whatever thoughts council has. Councillor Shiger?
I agree with that, and as a 4th member, I would volunteer to participate and maybe as being a little bit more removed than the municipalities who are directly involved.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyone from Central want to volunteer? Okay. One of you with an alternate, huh? Okay. Okay, then I'm thinking from the primary group would be the warden, Deputy Warden Jones, Counselor Noble, and Counselor Gier. Does that work? Okay,
I would agree. I agree with either Malahide or Elmer being involved as
Sure.
there is a growth area there as well too. So
absolutely. Yeah, we're all in this together. I mean, and when you think about the former Ford site, we all experienced growth across the entire county. You had employees, commuting in from the Jackson line, Vienna, probably from West Elgin, yes, London. So I anticipate that this still have regional impacts. Okay, so we'll establish that working group. Inside, then want to address a particular mandate. Or is it simply broad enough to suggest a one line of to determine to determine I hate to use the word negotiating strategy, but what's broad, all right. That's broad. Facilitate discussions on growth opportunities. Does that work? Well, and that's fairly broad too, and generic.
And challenges, Warden? know.
Growth, yeah.
No, no,
Opportunities
pardon
and
me.
challenges?
I meant
Opportunities and
opportunities and challenges vis-a-vis industrial growth.
Okay. Who captured that? Blaine?
Thank you, Warden. If I could make a suggestion, just in keeping with some of the commentary that I've heard around the table this morning. A mandate to establish and implement a strategy to support growth throughout Elgin County.
All right. Wow.
Is my work here done now?
For today. Wow, this morning. Okay. Any way you can scribe that into a motion, Jenna? One moment. Didn't you just take a break?
Mr. Warden, if I can just ask one question about the membership for the committee.
Yes.
We've identified 4 counselors. Are there any staff members that council would like appointed to the committee?
That's probably a good idea. I would expect we would want to include Director of Legal Services, perhaps a CAO. Do we need to go beyond that, Blaine? Because much of the senior leadership team will be tapped for information that we need, I would think.
Through you, Warden, to members of council, we could certainly leave it at that, recognizing, of course, that our Director of Finance and our Director of Engineering would be heavily involved throughout many of the discussions, given a large number of the challenges, obviously, are infrastructure and infrastructure planning related. And then obviously the financial element is extremely important. So those other 2 people, I would suggest be heavily involved in the committee. If
So
not,
named? We
I
can do
would
that.
suggest actually naming them.
Okay.
Just for the sake of discussion, naming them would require them to attend. So my concern is around like their capacity and coordinating schedule.
Yeah.
I totally agree. They are critical advisors to this. So perhaps they would be, depending on what we're discussing, as needed. It just might facilitate, yeah.
All right. Okay. That'd be like, please, Jenna.
Be it resolved that council establish a steering committee for the purposes of the boundary adjustment matter, and that the steering committee membership include Warden Ketchabah, Deputy Warden Jones, Councillor Jaguar, Councillor Noble, the Chief Administrative Officer Clerk, the Director of Legal Services, and as needed, the Director of Engineering Services and the Director of Financial Services, and that the mandate of the steering committee be to establish and implement a strategy to support growth throughout Elgin County.
Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Deputy Warden Jones, Councillor Widner, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Moving on to section 11, motion to adopt recommendations from the committee of the whole.
Be it resolved that we do now adopt recommendations of the committee of the whole.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Sloan, Councillor Noble, all in favor? That's carried. Consideration of the bylaws.
Be it a third and final read of bylaw number 23-43, being a bylaw to provide for the indemnity and defense of members of council, members of local boards, and employees of the county against loss or liability incurred while acting on behalf of the county.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Noble, and Councillor Jaguar, all in favor? That's carried.
Be it a third and final read of bylaw number 23-44, being a bylaw to delegate authority to officers and employees of the corporation of the county of Elgin.
Mover and seconder, Deputy Warden Jones, Councillor Noble, will second, all in favor? That's carried. Next bylaw.
Be it a first, second, and third read of bylaw number 24-01, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 23-01, being a bylaw to define the mandate and meeting procedures for committees established by the corporation of the county of Elgin.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Sloan, Councillor Noble will second. All in favor? That's carried. The confirming bylaw.
Be it a first, second, and third read of bylaw number 24-02, being a bylaw to confirm proceedings of the municipal council of the corporation of the county of Elgin at the January 9th, 2024 meeting.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Crooked and Councillor Sloan will second. All in favor? That's carried, which brings us to the adjournment.
Be it resolved that we do now adjourn at 12:41 PM to meet again on January 30th, 2024 at 9:00 AM.
Okay, and I saw Counselor Jones, Deputy Warden Jones move that, and I think it was Counselor Latham has his hand up to second it. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you for joining us this morning. A lot of discussion took place and a lot of progress has been made. So again, thank you very much. Everyone who's joined us, enjoy the rest of the day.